There's something no one told you. You don't have to share your problems to heal from them. You don't have to explain your pain to be seen. You don't need to open your wounds just to prove you're strong. In fact, the more you speak of your suffering to those who don't understand, the heavier it can become. Not because your pain isn't valid, but because not every heart is ready to hold what you carry. In a world where every emotion is posted, every struggle narrated, and every private moment made public, choosing silence feels almost radical. But maybe that's the strength you've been overlooking all along. What if your greatest healing doesn't come from venting, but from reflecting? What if the reason you still feel drained isn't because you haven't said enough, but because you've said too much to people who don't know how to listen? The Stoics knew this truth well. They didn't avoid suffering. They faced it, but they faced it inwardly, with dignity, restraint, and deep self-respect, not to hide, but to hold their power, to grow quietly without giving that growth away. And maybe that's what you're ready for now. To stop seeking comfort in conversations that leave you emptier, to stop explaining your scars to those who only look, but never really see, to stop scattering your energy in places that cannot return it. There is a kind of healing that happens when you stop talking, when you sit in the stillness of your own presence, when you finally listen, not to the world, but to yourself. This video is not about silence as withdrawal. It's about silence as wisdom, as protection, as quiet strength that no one can touch and no one can take away. So if you've been tired, not just in your body, but in your spirit, this message is for you, because you're not weak for going quiet. You're ready to begin again on your own terms. Let's begin. Part 1. The burden of oversharing. When talking does more harm than good, you think talking will help. You've been told it will lighten the load, so you speak, you open up. You hand over pieces of your pain, and sometimes it helps, but other times it doesn't. Sometimes it leaves you feeling even more misunderstood, even more tired, even more exposed. Not every pain becomes lighter by being spoken aloud, because not every listener is equipped to hold your truth. Some will hear your words, but not your heart. Some will judge. Some will give empty comfort that only deepens the silence inside you. And some, unintentionally or not, will use your vulnerability to make their own point instead of understanding yours. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." When you share your struggles with just anyone, you hand over your emotional balance. You place your inner world in someone else's hands, hoping they'll carry it with care. But many won't. Not because they're cruel, but because they simply don't know how. You've felt this, haven't you? The regret after sharing something too raw, too soon, with someone who didn't deserve that part of you. The way their reaction lingered longer than your own pain. It didn't heal you. It deepened the wound. In ancient times, there's a story of a Stoic teacher who was asked why he rarely spoke of his personal troubles. He replied, "Would you pour sacred water into cracked vessels?" It was his way of saying, not everything you carry is meant to be shared, and certainly not with those who can't hold it. There's a difference between hiding your pain and honoring it. Silence doesn't mean denial. It means discernment. It means taking your time. It means healing with intention. Instead of spreading your pain thin, hoping someone will pick it up and understand. Epictetus said, If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. And that applies here too. When you choose silence, some may think you're cold, that you don't trust, that you're distant. But what they don't see, what they'll never understand, is that your silence isn't emptiness. It's preservation. It's strength with its eyes open. The modern world tells you to share everything, to post it, to say it out loud, to find validation in likes, reactions, and quick advice. But the Stoic path reminds you, real growth doesn't need applause. And not every wound needs an audience. There is deep power in keeping something for yourself, in sitting with it, understanding it, letting it mature in silence, like a flame in a lantern, protected, not smothered. So next time you feel the urge to speak, just to feel lighter, pause. Ask yourself, does this person have the wisdom to hear me? Will this help me move forward? Or will it only echo louder in my mind later? Am I speaking from clarity, or just hoping someone will make sense of this for me? If the answers aren't clear, let silence hold it for now. Because silence never rushes you. It gives you space to feel, to reflect, to grow quietly. There will be times when words are needed, when a voice saves a life, when confession becomes liberation. But not always, and not to everyone, and never out of desperation for someone else to carry what you haven't yet understood yourself. Remember, your thoughts are sacred, your emotions are alive, and your pain is not public property. You don't need to prove your suffering to validate your strength. You don't need to be heard to be whole. Let silence hold what the world doesn't need to see. And let your healing happen, not for them to witness, but for you to become. Part 2, Trusted Confidants. Choosing who gets access to your inner world. Your inner world is not public property. It's not a stage. It's not a courtroom where others get to judge your emotions, question your thoughts, or measure your worth. It's a sacred space, and only a very few, deserve the key. You don't have to let everyone in. In fact, you shouldn't, because not all listeners are worthy of what you carry. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus said, "It is more necessary for the soul to be cured than the body, for it is better to die than to live badly." Healing the soul, finding peace, clarity, strength, requires discernment. It requires care in who you let speak into your pain. Not every ear is safe. Some people listen only to reply. Others listen only through their own wounds. And some, though well-intentioned, carry your struggle back into their world, telling it in a tone that strips it of your dignity. You may have learned this the hard way. You shared too soon, trusted too easily, and felt the sting of being misunderstood, dismissed, or worse, betrayed. So you started to retreat. But here's the truth. You don't need to isolate completely. You just need to be wise. Because healing doesn't always require solitude. Sometimes it simply requires better company. In ancient times, there's a story of Cleanthes, the Stoic philosopher who lived in poverty but never complained. He was once asked why he never confided in others when times were hard. He smiled and said, "I choose to suffer what I must, but not in front of those who cannot see the value in the suffering." It wasn't pride. It was clarity. He knew that real strength is often forged alone, or beside only those who truly understand the silence between your words. The people who deserve to hear your truth will earn it with their presence. Not just with sympathy, but with stillness. They'll hold your story like it matters, not try to fix you. Not rush to comfort you with hollow phrases, but sit in the storm with you, calmly, fully, without flinching. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." And part of that wisdom is this: just because others have mishandled your vulnerability doesn't mean you should never open again. It means you become more intentional, more self-respecting, more discerning about who gets to witness the unfolding of your inner life. So how do you know who's worthy? Look for the ones who make space, not noise. Those who ask gently, without needing every detail. Those who don't center themselves in your story. Those who respect your silence just as much as your voice. A true confidant is not a rescuer. They are a witness. They don't take your pain and carry it as their own. They don't try to pull you out of it before you're ready. They simply walk beside you, steady and quiet, reminding you that you're not alone, but you are still in control. And that kind of connection, that kind of safety, it's rare, but it's real. And when you find it, you'll know. Because instead of feeling exposed, you'll feel held. Instead of being drained, you'll feel seen and still whole. So don't throw your soul into every open hand. Wait. Choose carefully. Let time reveal character. And when you do speak, speak with trust that has been earned, not rushed. Because your story matters. Your silence matters. And the person you become through both is someone worth protecting. Choose your listeners the way you choose your thoughts, with care, with clarity, and always with strength. Part 3. Self-reliance isn't isolation. It's inner freedom. There's a kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't need applause, affirmation, or even a second opinion. It's the strength of knowing, deep in your bones, that you can handle it. Even when no one else sees, even when no one else helps. That's not loneliness. That's self-reliance. And it's one of the most liberating things you'll ever discover. But let's be honest. Self-reliance is often misunderstood. Some confuse it with isolation, with pushing people away, with going cold or quiet or numb. But that's not the Stoic way. Stoicism doesn't tell you to retreat from the world. It teaches you to master yourself within it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." It's not about shutting the world out. It's about not letting the world shape your thoughts for you. It's about knowing how to think, how to feel, how to face pain, without needing someone else to carry it for you. When you stop waiting for someone to rescue you, you begin to rise. Not because you don't need people, but because you realize your survival, your peace, your growth, it starts with you. Think of a tree standing alone on a cliffside, beaten by storms, shaped by wind. Its roots don't rely on the trees around it. They go deeper, into the rock, into the stillness beneath the chaos. And that's how it stands tall, not by leaning, but by digging inward. You're more capable than you think. Even in moments when doubt whispers otherwise. even when the path looks uncertain and you wish someone else could tell you what to do next. But here's the truth. You already know more than you admit. You already have what it takes to endure, to adjust, to move forward. The philosopher Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's what self-reliance truly is. Not pride, not resistance to help, but mastery. A deep, steady relationship with yourself, one that doesn't fall apart when others fall away. Of course, you'll stumble. Of course, there will be moments when you don't know what to do, but that's part of the journey. Every time you sit with your confusion, rather than running from it, every time you face your struggle without handing it off, you grow. And in time, the trust you build in yourself becomes unshakable. You stop chasing certainty from others. You stop needing constant reassurance, because you've proven to yourself again and again that you can navigate the storm. And you don't need to broadcast it to be brave. There's a quiet freedom in that. Quiet to live, to decide, to endure without asking for permission. To make peace your own responsibility. To stop depending on the world to make you feel okay. And when you walk through life this way, rooted, steady, clear, something shifts. People notice. Not because you're loud, but because your energy says, "I've been through fire, and I didn't burn. I built something in the silence, and now I carry that strength with me." So no, self-reliance isn't isolation, it's integration. It's becoming whole, not perfect. It's standing beside others without leaning on them to stay upright. You don't have to prove your independence, you just have to live it. And the more you do, the more you'll realize you were never waiting to be saved. You were just waiting to meet the version of you who could save yourself. And that version is already inside you. Part 4. Emotional clarity. What you learn when you stop speaking. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is go silent, not as a punishment, not to disappear, but to listen, not to others, but to yourself. Because the truth is, most of your confusion isn't from feeling too much. It's from never slowing down long enough to feel it fully. You talk, you explain, you vent. And while that might feel like release, often it only adds more noise. You find yourself circling the same emotion without ever landing on what it really means. That's where silence becomes your greatest teacher. It doesn't just quiet the world, it sharpens you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't suggesting you run from life. He was saying, go inward. Because when you stop speaking, when you stop performing, when you stop trying to be understood, you give yourself the rarest gift in today's world. Clarity. Emotional clarity doesn't shout. It whispers, and most people never hear it. Not because it's not there, but because they never make space for it to speak. When you stop speaking out of habit, out of hurt, out of that desperate need to feel better now, you start asking different questions. Not, why is this happening to me, but what is this emotion trying to show me? Not, how do I make it go away, but where is this coming from? And what truth have I been avoiding? That's when something shifts. You stop chasing quick comfort and start building deep understanding. There's a story of the Stoic philosopher Cleanthes, who used to walk in silence for hours after debates or hardships. He believed that speech was often a distraction from reflection, that the answers he sought were not in the words of others, but in the stillness of his own mind. He'd return from those walks not with the right words, but with the right perspective. And that made all the difference. You can do the same. You don't need to escape your life. You just need to reclaim your attention, to pause, to breathe, to say nothing and listen deeply. Because when you give yourself permission to not explain, not justify, not share too soon, you begin to hear what you're actually feeling, and often it's more layered than you think. It's not just sadness, it's disappointment from expectations you never voiced. It's not just anger. It's hurt from trusting too quickly or for too long. It's not just fear, it's grief for a version of life you thought you'd be living by now. Silence makes space for that kind of honesty, and in that honesty you gain something rare: emotional precision. Not being overwhelmed by everything you feel, but understanding what each feeling means and what it's asking you to do. This isn't about bottling things up, it's about sitting with them, letting them settle. Letting them speak before you speak about them. Because once you gain clarity, your words become fewer, but deeper. Your emotions feel lighter, not because they've vanished, but because they've finally been seen. By you, not dismissed, not judged, not feared, just understood. And that's where peace begins. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, don't rush to explain it. Don't post it. Don't call 10 people looking for the answer. Instead, step away, sit with it, listen. Your emotions aren't your enemy, they're messengers, and silence is how you open the door when they knock. Let it in, let it speak, and then let it pass. With clarity, with strength, with you still standing, quieter, wiser, and more in tune with who you really are. Part 5. Let your growth speak for itself. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't ask for validation. It simply is. Steady, unshakable, and real. That's the kind of power you build when you stop talking about your growth and just live it. When you no longer need to explain your journey. When you stop trying to prove that you've changed, and instead allow your presence to reveal it. Growth doesn't always come with applause. In fact, the most profound shifts in your life often happen in silence. Away from the noise, away from the spotlight, just you, your choices, and the quiet discipline of becoming someone new. Seneca once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that's the invitation here. You don't need to post about your transformation. You don't need to justify why you're letting go of certain habits, people, or patterns. You don't need to explain your new boundaries. You just live them. And those who are meant to understand will. There's nothing to prove when your actions are aligned with your values. Let your habits speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your peace speak. You'll be amazed how loud your life becomes when your voice goes quiet. Maybe you've felt this before. You start making changes, inward changes. You think differently. You respond more calmly. You choose solitude over chaos, clarity over conflict, but no one notices. Or worse, they challenge it. Why are you acting different? You've changed. And yes, you have, but you don't owe them a TED Talk about your healing. You don't need to defend the calm you fought so hard to build. Let your stillness speak for itself. Let your energy do the talking. The truth is, people remember how you make them feel, not what you said, not the speeches, but the energy you carry, the way you listen, the way you no longer argue for your worth because you finally know it. Think of a mountain. It doesn't explain how it got tall. It doesn't write a memoir about erosion or time or pressure. It just stands, and people notice. That's what real growth looks like. There's deep peace in walking forward without narration, not because your story doesn't matter, but because you're living it fully now, not performing it for others. Let them wonder how you've changed. Let them feel the shift in your presence. Let them see that something about you is different now, more grounded, more focused, less reactive, more free. That's how growth works. It's not loud, it's not flashy. It's not a brand you wear, it's a truth you embody. So stop chasing recognition for the internal work you're doing. Stop needing people to clap for your effort. Instead, walk into the next version of yourself, not to impress, but to become. As Epictetus reminds us, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. No need to announce it, no need to explain. Just be it. Live it, and let your growth, like the sunrise, be quiet, consistent, and undeniable. Because real power doesn't need to shout, it just walks in, and everything around it shifts. Conclusion: the strength of your silence. You've felt it, haven't you? That deep pull to explain yourself, to tell the story, to be understood. But now you know the truth. You don't need to say everything to heal. You don't need to prove your progress to be valid, and you certainly don't need permission to grow in peace. Your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's protection. It's a sanctuary, one the Stoics understood as sacred, and within that stillness, you've rediscovered something rare, your own strength, your own clarity. Your own path, walked not for applause, but for purpose. So from this moment on, you don't chase the noise. You don't chase validation. You let your life speak quietly, powerfully, unshakably. And if this message reached something in you, if it reminded you of the strength that's always been there, waiting, then you belong here. Subscribe to the Stoic Philosophy. Because here, the quiet matters, your stillness is honored, and your journey inward toward truth, discipline, and deep inner freedom is just beginning. Take a breath, stand tall, and walk forward, not louder, but clearer. Not seeking to be seen, but ready to see yourself fully. You've got everything you need, and now you remember.